You know that feeling when you've been totally misunderstood? Something small, an injustice that just eats away at you. Well, today we're going to dive into a classic story where something as tiny as a piece of string, it doesn't just create a little misunderstanding. Nope, it literally becomes the thing that leads to one man's complete and utter downfall. All right, so picture this. We're on the roads to a place called Goderville in France, and these roads are just packed with peasants. The story describes them in this really powerful way, saying they're deformed by their hard work, by all the slow and painful labors of the country. I mean, you can almost feel the ache in their bones, right? You can just see these gnarled hands and twisted frames, literally shaped by a whole lifetime of just trying to survive. So where are they all headed? It's a Norman market day. This is the absolute hub of country life, you know? It's where you do business, catch up on all the gossip. It's the center of their world. And it's right here, in this totally normal, everyday setting, that our main character is about to do something that will seal his fate. Just like that. The public square, man, it's just pure sensory overload. Just try to imagine this chaotic mashup of people and animals. The story calls it a continuous and savage din. All these shouting voices and bellowing livestock. And the air, it's just thick with the smell of the stable, of hay, of sweat. This is not some cute little country fair, okay? This is loud, it's raw, it's real life. And walking right into the middle of all this chaos is our guy, Mitra Hashcomb. Now, the one thing you really need to know about him is that he is super, super economical. A true Norman, as they say. For him, if something might be useful, no matter how tiny, you pick it up. Waste not, want not, right? And this one little character trait, well, it's the key to this whole story. And here we go. This is the moment, the fateful string. Just a simple, almost instinctual act for a guy like Hakukam, and it's about to set off an absolute catastrophe. So here's exactly what goes down. Hotchcomb spots this little piece of string on the ground, and true to form, his thrifty nature just kicks in. He bends down, even though his rheumatism is killing him, to go grab it. But right at that exact second, he looks up and sees his rival, Mitra Mellendown, the harness maker, staring right at him. And he's just hit with this wave of shame. Shame for what, you ask? For being caught picking up a worthless little bit of trash. So he quickly shoves the string in his pocket and pretends he was looking for something else on the ground. Awkward. Okay, so fast forward to later that day, everyone's at an inn, having a meal, and suddenly, you hear a drum roll. The town crier steps up and makes an announcement that's about to change everything. A black leather pocketbook has been lost. And where was it lost? On the very same road Hachikam was on just that morning. And we're not talking about just any old wallet here. This thing has 500 francs inside, plus a bunch of important business papers. Now, to put that into perspective for these folks, that is an absolute fortune. So all of a sudden, the stakes just got incredibly high. And well, that public announcement, it's about to become a very personal accusation. An honest man is about to find himself on trial, but not in a real courtroom. No, this is happening in the much more merciless court of public opinion. So, out of nowhere, Hoshikong gets called to see the mayor. And the accusation is just dropped on him, plain and simple. The mayor, who's this really serious, kind of pompous guy, just lays it out like it's a fact. You were seen this morning picking up the lost pocketbook. Can you even imagine the shock? The absolute terror that must have gone through Hoshikong's mind? And this is where it all gets so absurd, right? You've got this huge gap between what people think happened and what actually happened. On one side, you've got the mayor's version of the story, which is based on this witness. On the other side, you've got Hoshkam's reality. It was just a bit of thin cord. But here's the kicker. The witness, it's his enemy, Malandane. And Malandane has just masterfully twisted that one little moment of shame into a full-blown public crime. Haushikam, of course, is absolutely furious. He's desperately trying to defend himself, his honor. He's swearing on his soul, on his salvation, even spitting to the side to show how serious he is. He even pulls the little piece of string out of his pocket as proof. But the mayor, he just shakes his head. He just can't believe that Malandan would mistake a simple cord for a whole pocketbook. And this, right here, is the most brutal part. The truth doesn't even matter. As the story gets around town, people aren't debating if he's guilty or innocent. They're not even mad at him. They just laugh. His whole frantic defense, his story about the piece of string, it becomes a running joke. To them, he's not a criminal. He's just a funny old rascal. So you'd think that would be the worst of it, right? The humiliation is total. But believe it or not, the story is about to take an even more tragic turn. The unbelievable truth actually comes out. But in this horrible, cruel twist of fate, it doesn't set him free. In fact, it's what truly condemns him. So check this out. The very next day, some other guy, a farmhand, finds the pocketbook and returns it. And Hashikam is ecstatic. He's triumphant. He thinks, finally, my name is cleared. But that relief doesn't last long. See, the townspeople's suspicion doesn't just vanish, it changes shape. The new story they're telling themselves? Oh, Hashikam must have gotten an accomplice to return it for him. It was all just a clever trick. So his moment of victory is just gone. Instead of apologies, he's met with sneers. People are now calling him an old sharper. You see what's happening? His story about the string, which they first thought was just a dumb lie, is now seen as proof of how clever and tricky he is. It's part of a much bigger scheme. The poor guy is completely trapped. So, why? Why won't anybody believe him? Well, it all boils down to this concept of Norman cunning. The villagers have this built-in belief that a thrifty guy like Hashikam must also be naturally sly and totally capable of this kind of deception. His reputation, something he was probably proud of, is now the very thing working against him. The more he insists he's innocent, the more they're convinced it's all part of an elaborate lie. And this constant suspicion, this grinding day in, day out injustice, it just starts to eat him alive. See, for Hosh Chimukam, a destroyed reputation isn't just about gossip. It's the destruction of his entire sense of who he is. He just spirals into this complete obsession. He starts telling the story of the string to literally anyone who will listen. And every time he tells it, he adds more details, more frantic promises of his honesty. But the crazier his defense gets, the less anyone believes him. You can see him just wasting away right in front of their eyes. His mind starts to go. And in the cruelest twist, people start asking him to tell the story just for their own amusement, just to laugh at him. By the time January rolls around, he's on his deathbed. And even in his final moments, in his delirium, he's still pleading his case. He's still completely consumed by this one injustice. His very last words are just this frantic repetition of the truth nobody would ever believe. A piece of string. A piece of string. Look, here it is. His entire life just destroyed. All because of a simple misunderstanding. I mean, Maitrey Hashikam's story is it's such a devastating reminder of how incredibly fragile our reputation is. It shows how easily a little bit of suspicion, once it's planted, can grow into something way more powerful than the truth. And it really leaves you with this haunting question, one that feels just as important today as it ever was. Can a lie, once a whole community decides to believe it, can it ever truly be undone?